I'll answer the question. You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth!
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes. And today, my good friend Gevian Dargan is going to join me. We're going to talk about how the comic book industry is having a hard time reaching new black readers. Gevian has worked in the comic book industry in the past, and in the near future, he's starting his own new comic book company called Animated Concepts. Before he launches his new company, he's going to have two initiatives. He's going to start some comic book-based focus groups, and he's going to have a logo design contest. And before we begin the conversation, Gevian is going to plug the contest as well as his comic book focus groups and how to contact him. If you're interested, DM him on Twitter or contact him via email, and he's definitely looking forward to hearing from you. And you can definitely win some cash if you win the logo design contest. So let's hear Gevian's plug and get right into the conversation.
And so if I can, Wes, just to make a couple of quick plugs, I'd like to, again, if you're interested in being part of our focus groups we plan on running regular focus groups 3 times a year because we really want to hear from hopefully our potential customers. DM me on Twitter at Gevian Dargan. My name is spelled the same way, Gevian Dargan. And if we have any aspiring or professional logo designers out there, we currently have up on Crowdspring a job to design a logo for our company. So if you want to take a shot at getting that treasure $200, visit Crowdspring, type in either my name or Animated Concepts, and let's see what you got.
We know that comic books would like to change that as far as the industry. They want to grow their audience, expand their reach, and start finding new audiences to buy into comics and grow sales and things like that. One of the audiences that it appears that they're having trouble reaching is the black audience in America. There is some evidence that it's not the characters essentially that are driving away. When we know that when the Black Panther movie came out, it hit huge. There was pictures and videos all over social media. Black Americans were very fervent about that movie. They went out and supported it. And they didn't just support it. They supported it big, multiple viewings, and they were very excited about it. So, Gevian, from your perspective, from what you have seen, what is it the comic book industry isn't doing? What are the prohibitive factors? Is it culture? Is it the characters are wrong? Is it the medium? Is it cost? Is it a little bit of all that?
I'm glad you brought up the Black Panther movie because it was, in a sense, our Star Wars, if you will, especially with the whole Wakanda Forever, the influences it took from Afro-punk, which a lot of people are not in the Black community are not necessarily familiar with, but there is a very ample audience for that. I think when you look at Black Panther, there can be, in some instances, a bit of an overstatement of that in order for a superhero movie or for a comic book to be popular with Black audiences, it has to be a Black character. That's not necessarily the case. There was a study that I came across. It was a real facts study, which I believe was sponsored by BET, which actually it was Real Facts, a movie goer consumption study. So they were saying from the people they surveyed, on average, 81% of the movies seen by African Americans do not prominently feature an African American cast, storyline, or lead Black star. Traditionally, African Americans do support films in which their own images, likenesses are featured, but this group is also just as engaged with mass appeal general market films, since the leading criteria for movie selection is based on genre. What does that mean? What that means is just like everybody else, we'll go see something, we'll go support something if it's good. If it's good. And Black Panther definitely, don't get me wrong, Black Panther definitely had a lot of hype because of the fact that it was the Black Panther and it was a Black character, because there was another study that I came across that said 51% of Black consumers are more likely to purchase a product or support a service if they see in the advertising promotional materials people who look like them. And again, I'm sure if you did a survey of other ethnic groups, you would find that to be the same thing. So really, at the end of the day, when you bottom line it, it's more a question of what their genre tastes are and the quality of whatever the product or property is. for those who are either interested from a marketing perspective, or if you're looking to go into the comic business or any entertainment business yourself, and get this with the real facts numbers, they may be about 5 years old or so. Definitely one of the top 3 genres that African Americans spend their money on at movie theaters. Comedy appeared to be 1, action adventure appeared to be 2. Those were close 1 and 2. The next one was romance, and then right after that was sci-fi, fantasy, and horror. When you go to comics, I would have to say, if I had to be, some people may disagree with this, but this is just my opinion from research over the years, it's price and place. Most Black people, they kind of like understand that comic books exist, but I've always heard, oh, they still make those, or they're just not available prevalently. They're not.
It's an access issue.
Yeah, it's an access issue. They're not communities. They're not available. You don't have the newsstands of old where you could walk into the bodega and they had a rack of comic books that were up there and you could buy it 5 minutes from your house. It's like now you have to, like in my case in Chicago, which I've mentioned in some other discussions, depending on where I live in the city, I'm on the west side now, which puts me closer to one of the stores I used to go to. But if I lived, like, say, in the South Shore here in Chicago, the nearest comic stores, with the exception of Graham Crackers downtown, all about 90 minutes out. So there's really no way to have easy access to the books. And then even if you had the easy access to the books, that $3.99 price point is a killer. I'm pretty sure you're familiar with, I believe her name is Eve Ewing, lady who was writing an Ironheart at one point. So yeah, so she was doing an interview on public radio, I believe it was NPR, where they were talking about her run. I believe it was on World of Wakanda, something like that. And they asked her the same question. What is it that comic books can do to attract more Black audiences or more other ethnic groups? And she said the same thing, price. It's just not affordable. The price doesn't encourage sampling. No one's going to take a chance on any of these books at $3.99 a pop. You know, our good friend Perch, I read an article from his 2 years ago. He's done a recent video on it, and he's absolutely right about some of the, well, we're talking about the market leaders, basically Marvel and DC, and those other companies who have adopted their marketing strategy, that basically, because of the situation they found themselves in, it's not going to be easy for them to basically take their newer comics and basically offer them at a $250 price point. Unlike what Sean Gordon Murphy is doing. And if you get a chance to check out that interview, you got to check out the interview with Perch. He's given a lot of up-to-date information and is basically confirming a lot of things that people are saying about the industry as a whole. But the fact that Sean is being bold and going for that $250 price point, I'm hoping that other indie creators, because that was the price point we came down to for our books, is that they will come in with that price, because that encourages people to sample. People are going to take a chance on a book at that $250 price point, more so than $3.99 or $4.99 in some cases. So really, it's price and place. And until they can get those books in front of people and at a good price, I don't know what to say.
So what are the access issues? We know that there are less comic shops, in the United States. It's dwindling. The access for everyone is dwindling. And I believe the comic book industry, and I think they're right on this, thinks that digital should be the new spinner rack. That should be the new entry point for people where they can go in for digital. You can find your comic books that way. And then that way everyone has access in theory. But if you read digital comics on a phone, which most people have, a phone with internet access in a screen, it's bad. It's too small. You honestly need a tablet or you need a PC. Tablets are a lot more expensive. A lot less people have them. Needing a tablet as maybe an access point into digital comics, even if they lower the price, is that another inhibitor?
I'll say this, and because I'm not real strong with the numbers in terms of if you look at the Black community as a whole with adoption of tablets, I do know from some of the research that I've had that having the device is not necessarily the problem. I think if anything, what we're talking about, and this came up in one of our discussions, it's really going to come down to discovery, which I place under when you talk about the 4 P's of marketing: product, price, place, and promotion. Promotion. That's awareness.
No one knows that it's
there. Awareness. Nobody knows that it's there, and you know that just from that's the case in the industry in general. If you walk into the store to go get like hair gel, and it just happens that you see that spinner rack or you see that rack of comics there, it's like, oh, you make that discovery, you might pick that up, as a purchase that you make, as an impulse purchase that you're doing with the purchase that was planned. When you're going online, and there may be people who may be far better at this than me, but a lot of times if I'm going online for something, I'm going to a specific destination for a specific purpose. And if I happen to discover something, great. But 9 times out of 10, that hasn't really been my experience. The only way I would say that I feel discovery works well online, at least has been in my experience, has basically been YouTube. And if I'm going through those videos, a lot of them, like I think it's on What Culture, where they'll have 10 video games you didn't play in the last year. I'll go through those and I'll say, oh man, well, I got 7 of those, but I never heard of this one and that one. And then I'll go online, go to GameStop, see if they have it someplace, go down and try to get the best copy of it that I can at the cheapest price. But that's it. The industry is just not doing a good job of promoting the product, period, regardless of whether it's aimed at a Black audience, a white audience, an Asian audience, Latino audience. It's just not doing a good job of promoting, period. And like you said, and as the comic shops are going to shrink, given our current situation, it's going to make promotion that much more necessary.
Yeah, it's almost like the comic industry only advertises and promotes to the customers they already have. They don't really they don't go for any reach outside. And it's insane because if you think about the biggest movie in the history of the industry is Avengers Endgame. That is directly tied into multiple comic stories, most notably Infinity Gauntlet. When you look at the graphic novel sales from last year, Infinity Gauntlet is not in the top 10. You have a lot of older DC comic stories, a lot of Batman kind of stuff. The Watchmen, of course, that one's on there, but they were prominently featuring, new HBO show and stuff on like this. I don't think a lot of even movie fans know that Infinity Gauntlet even exists. That is the source material for the biggest movie in the history of the world.
Oh, no, exactly. Jim Starlin's getting robbed. So that's what Jim Starlin is getting robbed left and right. And that's not a knock on Jim Starlin, because the business is the business. With all due respect, we're basically talking about Jim Starlin. I think it was Mark Millar and pretty much Brian Hitch were responsible for basically the greatest film franchise that we've seen since Star Wars. And that's because there are no connections being made from the mainstream product, if you will, the most visible product, to the industry and the product from which all this stuff is originating. It's just very poor marketing. It's very poor. Now, in this case, I may look at it as downselling. It's very poor downselling. But the simple fact of the matter is, even if you were in some sense to connect people to, if you like this story here, check out the story. If you like the story of the movie, check out the story that it's based upon. The simple fact of the matter is, we would get into the perceived entertainment value of it. And it would be just like, well, I just saw pretty much a version of that for probably about half the price of what you're trying to pitch to me over here. So why would I do that? And then even was like, oh, I can go get New Adventures. It's like, you're not telling them that it exists. There's no reason why the comics industry, and I'll say this because our industry needs more industry leaders as opposed to market leaders. For them not to just say allocate just X amount of money to say we're going to run ads for the comic located shop, or like comics are fundamental, or whatever you come up with on a regular basis to get people in the stores. It just seems like it's money you're just missing out on money, because anytime you put a comic book, it's been my experience, and someone who even has a tangential interest in it, they love it. They enjoy reading the stories, but it's like, in terms of it becoming a hobby that they'll adopt, the industry's just not making it easy for them to do it. We're not bringing the product to them, and we're not bringing the product to them at a price where they can sample it. In terms of the product piece, I am less concerned about the content to an extent, because there was a time in the industry where people were like, well, it's superheroes, and the problem why the industry can't grow is because superheroes aren't for everybody. Nobody likes superheroes. So 2 things I can say to that is one, the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe has proven superheroes are a legit genre. They're part of Americana. They're not going anywhere. They can be just as popular and just as engaging as any other genre. But the second part is that when you look at the content in comics out there, there is literally something out there for everyone. Everyone. So this isn't a question of product in terms of the content. What this is a problem is more of the market logistics in terms of place, price, and promotion. There just seems to be little to no interest promoting the industry or promoting the product. And
so
maybe
you don't think the content, could be an issue? Because like we'll go back to Black Panther, and then I have another final question. If you were to go in and see Black Panther when it opened up, and you were excited about the character, you're like, you know what, this is a character I've been wanting my entire life. There's an actual ongoing series right now, and you went to your comic store. I think you would have gotten a Ta-Nehisi Coates written Black Panther, which wasn't very action oriented like the movie, but also Black Panther would have been in space.
Okay, so I'll give you this. I'll give you this. My kids, we got into watching together Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated, which I think was, it's not the Scoob movie, but it was like the one series that was good before they realized, they had something. And when my daughters went to see some other stuff that was Scooby-Doo, while it was the same characters in a sense, some of them had different designs, some of them had different concepts or premises for the series. But to your point, because someone else made this comment, and I can't remember your thing about the consistency of the characters across the different mediums, if you will, or brands, if you will, during the medium. I take your point that if you saw the Black Panther movie and you got the Ta-Nehisi Coates thing, where it's the Wakandan Empire and space thing, it's kind of like what's going on. But what prevents a comic stop, or what prevents Marvel from re-releasing the Priest run, which the Black Panther book was based on? The movie was based on, because that's what it was based on. It was based on.
Well, I think the Black Panther character was based on his, but the actual aesthetics were based on the original Ta-Nehisi Coates line. I can't remember the name of the artist, but he's the one that kind of did all the aesthetics.
Yeah, no. They took the Afro-punk aesthetics from Coates' run to create the visual design of Black Panther. But the characters and the story in there, that's all Christopher Priest's stuff. So the simple fact of the matter is that if you're trying to, so that would be just like an updated version of what Priest did. But if you're saying that, if the point is that, well, you want to give them a character that is familiar or similar to the character they saw in the movie, that's the run that you would have on. That's what you would be reprinting at $2.50 and getting them in Dollar Tree, Dollar General, Walgreens, and Walmart. So people would go, and make that connection. Even if you took the coat stuff, people might see from the cover, it's the same thing. But once they got into the story, it's like, what's going on here? Yeah, because I had to get out of the Coates run, and I know some people will be upset, but I had to get out the Coates run quick. And the same thing with even Black Panther, the crew, to a certain extent. I thought it was going to go somewhere, but it ended up being more the Luke Cage Netflix series than it was anything Black Panther related later. But that's the example I always use about Super Friends. See, for me with Super Friends, that was my show. That was my thing. When I went into my newsstand one day and came across a copy of the Justice League of America, I recognized it for what it was, because even in the Super Friends show, even though the brand itself wasn't Justice League of America, they always referred to the characters in the show as the Justice League of America. So then it was like, oh, snap, I've been watching reruns of this for the last 2 years. Now I can get some new adventures of the same characters every month if I want to. So, I mean, Marvel tried it with Avengers Assemble when the movie first came out, and they created that team. I think, who was it? It was definitely Bagley was doing the art. I forget who the writer was. And they had like that 6 to 12 issue run where they were presenting a team that looked like the movie team. But it's like, but at the same time, what was it, like 50 Avengers titles out there when it came out? You can't focus people in on
brand
the
confusion.
Comic. There you go, brand confusion.
So Gervain, obviously, we could talk about this subject, for probably a couple hours. You're obviously very passionate about it, but we do have to get you out. We'll get you out on this question. So if you had a seat at the table for 5 minutes with the EIC of DC Comics, Bob Harris, the EIC of Marvel Comics, CB Cebulski, and they said, Gervain, just be real with us. What is it that we're doing wrong? Why can't we reach Black audiences the way we want to? What would your little spiel be, just to let them know what the real issue is?
Real easy. You need to take the current material that you already have, reprint it with a $2.50 cover price, and get it into dollar stores, drugstores, and barbershops and or hair salons, or anybody else who'd be willing to sell it. It's not hard. And the reason why is because most of that audience has no idea your content exists in the first place. So it's going to be brand new to them. And that would be my pitch.
Well, thank you for once again joining me here on the channel, Gevian. And I really appreciate it. We'll probably hit this topic again somewhat in the future, and I really appreciate the time.